Hello everyone and welcome to Tuesday's RanGV's plane analysis. Today we are going to take a look at the P-47D Thunderbolt, the plane which was the most voted for in the last plane analysis. Remember that in this plane analysis you are able to choose which is the next plane which is going to be reviewed according to a very few minimal things that I'm going to state at the end of this video. So, well, yeah, the P-47D. There are two P-47Ds in the American trajectory. Both of them are at level 9 currently in 1.33, and seemingly seems that in 1.35, sorry, are going to be moved down one level at level 8. They are very similar planes, and for all effective means and purposes, I'm going to review them under the same analysis because they have some very minimal differences in mostly in some performance parameters, but they basically fly the same and they really are so close to each other that it's meaningless to do two different plane analyses for basically the same plane. If you are wondering, just by looking at the stats, you are never going to find out what these two planes, the D28 and D25, have in difference between them. Well, the difference is that the D25 was the first bubble top Thunderbolt and had a Hamilton standard propeller, sorry, Hamilton standard paddle bladed propeller. Now I said it finally. Clap, clap, please applause. And the D28 have a different Curtis propeller. You can see the propellers are different. Otherwise, they are basically the same. The engines are basically the same. The airframe is the same. The structure is the same. The weapons are the same. So they are mostly the same. Differences? Well, the D28 accelerated a little bit faster, but paid it for a little less top speed. But they're basically the same. I mean, we are talking about minimal differences, and for all meanings and purposes, both planes are the same. As you can see, those are level 8 planes, which are have a pretty the same cost of almost 1600 Lions to repair. This plane is a pure boom and summer, and that's probably why it's got such a bad rep. If you go on the forums and you go check for people opinions on this plane, the usual statement is that these planes are underpowered and that they they are useless, they are worthless as fighters. Is not the case. The plane is actually very capable. I'm going to state its strengths and weaknesses in a second, but really this plane is as good or better as any other at level 8 and 9. The only thing is that it should be flown very differently. I mean, this is a pure boom and summer. You step one step away from boom and zoom, you are dead. And I'm not kidding here. Dead. And that's the problem with this plane. I mean, people in War Thunder usually don't have proper knowledge of boom and zoom tactics, and they don't understand them properly, even while by this level 8, 9, they should actually be used to that because of the previous US fighters. But all of them allow for a different playstyle. The P-40E allows for a little bit of turn fighting, the F4F certainly does, the F8F, well, it's in a currently pretty bad state, to be honest, flight model wise, but it's a pure boom and summer, but basically no one flies it because it's not really competitive. The P-39, everyone flies it for the cannon, not for the characteristics of the plane, so they don't really learn anything flying these things. So there is a stepping process in the US trajectory to learn to boom and zoom, but most people who reach level 9 or 8 in 1.35 are not yet ready to fly this plane to the strengths because they don't understand boom and zoom. Thankfully, well, you are looking at this channel, so hopefully you know how boom and zoom works, and probably you will be able to do very well in this plane. The P-47D is a very heavy plane. It's 7 tons heavy. It's the heaviest and by a pretty noticeable margin, is the heaviest single-engine fighter of World War II. There were heavier fighters. The P-38 was heavier, but it was a twin engine. So this is the heaviest single engine fighter of the whole conflict. You are going to drool as soon as you hear this, because you all know that when I say something is very heavy, means that it dives and zooms like a dream. It's usually truth in this game. In this particular plane, is not as much. The plane doesn't dive as you would expect it to. Reasons for that: it doesn't dive as you would expect it to. Still dives very well. Don't take me wrong, this plane is a good diver, but it's not the world-beating diver it was in World War II. In World War II, when you pointed the nose down in one of those things, it accelerated like a brick. I mean, actually, in the initial stage of the dive, if it started at very slow speeds, German fighters could initially overtake it. Not by much, but actually could. But once the high speeds were reached, nothing would outdive a P-47. And that was probably the strongest of its advantages. In this game, well, dive is not bad. You are going to outdive 109s, you are going to outdive Focus 190s, but not that much. But you will need a lot more altitude and a lot more space than what it would be expected from a plane this heavy. This means that the strongest advantages of this plane, historically speaking, are not as noticeable in War Thunder. Still, the plane is far from useless. It's very capable. You just have to adjust for the fact that you can't really trust the dive as much as you would like to. Zoom is very good. I mean, zoom is it zooms as good as you would expect it to. It's very heavy, but aerodynamics are not the best. And in zoom, aerodynamics plays a bigger part than in dives. It's a very strong zoomer. It's not as strong as a zoomer as a P-51, for instance, because the P-51 is better aerodynamically wise. But it's a very strong zoomer. So once you have the speed and you point the nose up, the thing goes up like, wow, a rocket. Also keeps speed very well in a linear flight. So if you are over your top speed and you keep on going straight, you are going to drop that extra speed over your top speed at a very slow rate. So it's a very, very, very good boom and zoomer. And probably the best thing about this plane is how well it controls. I mean, it's not the best roller. It's not got the best roll rate around, but it's a decent, very, very decent roller at all speeds, and that's the strength of this plane: controllability at all speeds. At very high speeds, it controls like a dream. It's very stable as well. It's very easy to aim with this plane at very high speeds, something which can be said about very few planes in War Thunder. To compound that, you have 8 machine guns, 850 cals, and these things at convergence really shred things fast. And if they don't kill in one pass, at least they will disgrace the other guy so fast that he will be more centered around the fact that he's having a tough time flying his plane than to actually bother with keeping on the fight. This thing causes very strong damage in very short bursts at convergence. So it's very strong. That it's important that, and this is a point I'm going to stress a lot. You have to find your convergence for this plane, and to do that, you have to fly it and find out at which ranges you are fighting at. And I use the convergence for that particular range. This is one of those planes that really doesn't have an ideal convergence, because the weapons are a lot of them. They fire in very tense trajectories, so they can hit at very long distances. But of course, they will hit at lower damage at those distances. Also, they have a lot of firepower or rate of fire combined. So if you set it for very close ranges, you are going to deal a lot of damage at those ranges. But you have to be at those ranges. So try to fly this plane like a test for a couple times with whatever convergence you feel like trying, and find out at which ranges you are shooting at. And once you find out at which ranges you are shooting at with it, adjust for that. This is pilot's preference. I really like this plane. I love it. 2 bits. It's one of my all-time favorites of history. I think it was a technological marvel of its time, and really this was a headache for the Luftwaffe. This was the plane that actually broke the Luftwaffe's back, not the P-51, but that's a historical discussion we'll leave for another time. So yeah, for machine guns, a lot of ammunition, check of that. 3 weapons, yeah, that's a lot. So you have a very nice firepower, and you can keep it up for long times. That's one of the biggest assets of this plane. Don't be scared of spray and pray. And you're going to see me actually spraying and praying in one of my videos. The machine guns, of course, and then it can mount up to 2,500 pounds of bombs. It also can load those bombs with 10 rockets. And different combination of rockets and bombs, only rockets. Well, if you use any of these combinations at the game start, you are an absolute idiot, and you should be flying a B-25 and bomb. If you want to bomb, use a bomber. This is a fighter. Really, it is. At the game beginning, you are a fighter. You are a fighting asset for your team. You are one of those who should be looking for trouble with enemy fighters, not with enemy ground units. Once the enemy fighters have been beaten, and if you want to go back to base, rearm, repair, and reload with bombs and rockets to go pounding ground targets, do so at will. But at the game beginning, for heaven's sake, please don't overload this plane with bombs and rockets. Because it's a very heavy plane. It has a very powerful engine, but it's very heavy. This plane doesn't climb or accelerate worth a crap. If it accelerates and climbs very slowly at the game beginning, just figure out what it's going to be like with 10 rockets and 2,500 pounds of bombs. You're going to be... I mean, without bombs, this plane is a fighter. With ground ordnance, this plane is a target. And you are going to die as a target, because as soon as you are spotted, you are going to be targeted and you are going to die. So don't load ground attack ordnance in this plane at the game beginning. As the game goes by, and if you see that there's an opening to do so and you want to give it a fighter bomber go, do so. But that's once the enemy fighters have been dealt with, not before. And also, before I forget to mention it, yes, this plane accelerates and climbs very poorly. It should. I mean, it's a really heavy plane. Really heavy plane. So, well, for more information about this plane and its flying characteristics, tactics, and more in-depth explanation about maneuverability, performance, etc., please visit my blog, which is going to be in the description below, and where I do a written review about this plane in detail. So, well, next comes the gameplay, so let's see some action. Our first fight is going to be against the Germans in Oberpultz. And as you can see, I have already climbed it out for almost 5,000 meters. This is the minimum you want to be at with fighters 10 kilometers away from you. It's the bare bones minimum. When you actually come closer, you want to be higher. You can see I have a BF-109 at 12 kilometers and I'm at 5,000 meters. Is, I mean, the minimum. You go lower than this, you are in serious risk. Because probably there will be higher fighters around, and you want to have energy on your side when you are engaging enemies. So you can see we have a pretty straightforward fight. We have a Spitfire up there. We also have another down there, which of course is going to die very quickly, as usually happens with the guys who go low. Anyway, right now I'm just coasting. I'm just watching the enemy. Very important thing in this plane, situational awareness. Don't dive on the first enemy you see. wait until you see most of the enemy team, because if I was diving now in one of those two guys you can see, well, where are the rest of the fighters? Look at that, they have a ton of fighters. Where are them? Where are the rest? Well, chances are they are out of view and that they are climbing. So if you start climbing and you dive on the targets you are already seeing, when those guys appear, they are going to be over you and they are going to beat you. Look at that! We have a focal point enemy at the same altitude as us, 6,300 meters. And he's at our altitude, so really you need to climb before starting your fights, because as a pure boom and zoomer, this plane needs energy to stay alive. So yeah, without losing track of what's around us, we are going to head ourselves towards that focal point enemy. We can see that we have some backup in the way of that Spitfire up there, so the focal point enemy probably is going to start avoiding pretty soon. I'm cutting angles here. I'm trying to come close to him. There you go, Spitfire is at firing range. The focal point enemy starts to avoid. So let's check if we can get a proper shot at this guy. We follow his move. Miss the shot. But we get a critical there. He's got his right wing critically damaged. And this is what I meant before by these weapons. They might not kill the enemy fighter, but that guy, that focal point enemy, currently has such a badly damaged wing that he's going to be unable to fight for the rest of the game. I'm actually following because I know there are no other fighters up there. But here you are going to see me using another tactic, which I do a lot. I'm at 3,000 meters. I'm not going to go below that. If he dies under that, okay, he's gone. He's already low. Some other of my friendlies will probably deal with him. But I'm going to stay above that altitude as much as I can. I check around to be sure I don't have any enemies around. And once I make sure I don't have any enemies around, is when I dive. Not before. But if you dive before checking your surroundings and you have higher enemies around you, you might end up in a really serious trouble. And if you let him dive, look at that, focus point 90 over our altitude, change of targets. The other guy we critted, and really I want to kill him, but I'm not going to concentrate myself into that, because there's another focal point 90 there which has a ton of energy and I really want to kill. He made a boom and zoom attack, he's now reversing, he's not expecting me, and that guy's dead. So yeah. So you can see the thing here is situational awareness. Never focus on a single enemy target. Always check for the higher energy enemy and go for that one and center yourself around that one. And if you are following a guy in a dive and he goes under a given threshold you set on yourself beforehand, for me it was 3,000 meters, you pull up, you start zooming, you check your surroundings, and if you are sure that nothing is above that altitude, you can resume your dive, resume your attack, and keep on going. If there are higher enemies, leave the guy who just dived go away, because he's given most of his altitude, he's in a disadvantage, and if he doesn't die because of the damage you dealt to him, someone else will kill him. And this is a team-based game. You want teams to win. It's worthless to get 6 kills if your team loses because you are not looking for them. So well, I finished off this guy who had no engine left. I mean, this was simply the coup de grace, or however it's called, the finishing touch. And we only have one guy left, who ironically is the guy I created before. And he's running. But he's not going to turn back or try to present any kind of fight or threat, because he simply can't. He's so badly mauled from the previous video that you're going to see in a second. I'm going to actually cut down the race, and you're going to see what happens at the end. Right now you can't see him because he's only a dot. He's not in icon range, but he's reaching the map's edge, and he's soon to be respawned looking towards me. So I'm just going and knowing, there you go. He's already been spawned by the map's limit. He's coming my way. All I have to do is to zoom away. And look at that. The guy even doesn't try to maneuver because he can't. He's actually going to crash. He's so badly damaged by the hits I got on him that he couldn't even fly his plane. So, yep, this was one of the battles I wanted to show you. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is against the Japanese. Over Guadalcanal. There are a lot of enemy fighters and we only have 4 because the rest are bombers. So this is one of those cases when you really want to restrict to boom and zoom. Not a big problem because in a P-47 you always want to anyway. And you're going to see here why this is a pure boom and zoomer, and I think a good explanation on how to keep this plane within boom and zoom. You can see I have already selected my target. The other guys around are either too low or already engaged. This guy has a somewhat decent altitude below him and he's unengaged. So this is going to be my target. Fast check around, as you can see, those that aren't engaged are too low. So we are not in any immediate threat at all. So I watch this guy move. He's already spotted me. It's pretty obvious the way he's maneuvering. He's trying to start defensive moves against me. I die for him. And well, here you can see the plane maneuvers really well and it's very stable at high speeds. Those were 750 kilometers per hour more or less. So, oh excuse me, zooming away, look around, remember hard ceiling, you don't want to go under that if there are higher guys around. So, there are none, I can go below. We also spot a Ki-49, there are some zeros down there, but they are very low and very slow, so they are not going to be a huge problem. E6M is maneuvering, I'm coming very quickly for the shot. Adjust for it, critical, let's move forward. Don't stick into that. Just a snapshot, keep on going. Zooming, winning altitude back, we want to stick to our energy as much as we can. Time to reverse, we have traded a good chunk of our speed for altitude, so we can dive on him again. We set our pass, select our angle, look at how he's moving, predict where he's going to be, fire at him, get some hits, not going to follow, easy enough, he's dead. And zooming away again. I see that A6M2 is coming for me, but I'm much faster in speed than him and I'm zooming. He can't follow. He reacts to some other fighters of my team going for him, so I can reverse freely and target him. And I do so. He's obviously aiming for that P-39, so I aim at a midway between him and the P-39, so I'm cutting his angles, I'm coming in faster. Not just by speed, but also by angles, by cutting his corners. Get a proper angle. I really messed up a little bit here because I had a friendly in my way. So for a second I doubted if I wanted to shoot or not. And here is what I told you. I spot a higher enemy. Main target. First target, he's going to be the one we are going for. And I liberally, totally spray and pray in a head-on pass, because the Zero can't stand the fire of these machine guns. Simply can't. It will get damaged. That guy was very fast, was higher in enemy than me, has reversed, is closing on me, not very quickly, and here I use my dive. I'm so confident in that he's not going to be able to follow that. I tried to target that Ki-45, but I don't want to give a head-on because that guy has big guns. So yeah, I keep on going instead. And you can see the Zero is up. He's already pulling up. He's already looking around. He's looping. So it's time for me to reverse on him. Use my high speed to do a loop, win altitude back, and face this way. There he is again. And now again, head on. I'm going to accept it. The series is much weaker than the P-47. My weapons are much better at long range, so I can adjust farther away. And even more so, I'm not planning to maneuver behind that guy. Head-ons are an uninspiring and very bad idea if what you are is in a 1v1. But if all you want to do is a hit and run tactic, just do it. Because to follow me, that guy has to turn 180 degrees and follow me. And he's not going to be able to do it without wasting all his energy. Now I get a little bit unlucky. I get a pretty close flak hit. My engine starts leaking oil, which means that in maybe 5-6 minutes I'm going to start having serious troubles with my engine damage. It will start getting damaged until it dies, but for the time being I'm okay. I can't really go back to land and repair because this is a carrier based map. I could try to, but I'm not going to. Again, head on, which I accept. I get some hits, no big damage, and I light him up in exchange. I totally forget about him because he's on fire, but of course you know what happens with Japanese fighters. I don't know what's up with them, that you light them up and they don't burn. But still, that guy was so damaged that he couldn't stay in the fight, and you're going to see it later. He actually RTB'd to the carriers and crashed on landing. I didn't get any kill awarded for that, bad luck, but the guy was out of the fight, and that's what matters. Is one guy less, we can focus on the other guy. There he is, not on fire anymore, but I very soon spot he's moving back to his fleet, so he's not a problem. So this guy is giving me a good shot. Get some hits. Here I insist a little bit because it's a lot of guys versus that only guy. If it was a 1v1, I would have just gone for the snapshot and moved away. In this one, I turned it a little bit because I could. I mean, that guy has enough troubles on his own just to bother me at all. And yeah, that's going to be this in this video. This is going to be this battle because that guy is going to be killed by someone else. I don't even get an assist. I don't know why, because I got hits on him. The other guy is going to crash upon landing. I don't get a kill. Also, I don't understand why, but I don't. This was a 2-kill battle actually, but I only got one. What are you going to do? So yeah, that's it. That's this battle for you. That's how you fly the P-47. Now let's go to the conclusions. Well, the thing is that the P-47 might not dive as you would expect it to, and it doesn't, but it still dives very well, zooms exceedingly well. It's a really, really, really good boom and zoomer. With these weapons, it's amazing, and with that maneuverability at high speed, it's even more amazing. This is a very underrated plane, and that's because people don't understand it. But it's easy to understand. It's a pure boom and zoomer. Don't step away from boom and zoom. Don't. If you do, you die. It's simple. But if you stay with it, boom and zoom, pure boom and zoom, and if you don't commit mistakes, which is very important, this plane is not forgiving, you're going to do very well in it. I mean, it's a very powerful fighter. And as I say in the blog as well, this is also another thing. Most people have a very confused view about this plane. They think it's really bad as a fighter when it's not at all. So they underrate it. They underestimate it. So enemies usually see a P-47 and start thinking, oh, target. Well, if you use this plane right, it's not a target, not by any stretch of the imagination. On the opposite, it's a very strong fighter. So, well, guys, hope you enjoyed the review and hope you learned something. Now, remember, next week there will be another plane review, and you choose which plane is going to be reviewed. Remember, the limits are within the planes you can see in these screens, and as long as they are not obviously broken from the flight model point of view. You all know which broken planes are, so I'm not going to enter into that. These are the planes you can choose from. Of course, I would thank you and I would really appreciate, guys, that you don't ask me to do reviews on planes that have been actually reviewed not that long before. I mean, most of the reviews that are up are still valid for the most part, but well, whatever you want to see, just vote for it. And if you find something you really want to see, I will review it for you. Also, I would, this is not important, but I would ask from you guys that try to keep more or less an even spread between nations. I mean, I have already done an American plane review. I actually have done several lately. I mean, my three latest American plane reviews have been American. So some more variation would be helpful. So try to select something from other nations. It's not a big deal. If all of you guys want to see a different American plane, I will do another different American plane. You decide. You vote. You decide, and I will do whatever you guys want to see. So again, remember, check out the blog for the analysis and review on this plane. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and see you later.
Every city, there's a place where life's a little easy. A stress from the world outside. Every longer will be alright.